let's reset with that conversation, because like that must be one of the most just humbling and exciting things to work with somebody as revered as David Bowie. But what was interesting, one of the things that I heard you share in a conference talk was that David Bowie didn't show up with the costumes and the makeup. He showed up in like a flannel and blue jeans.
Yep.
And he was so down to earth. Can you talk to me about like, was that like shocking to you? And what was your experience like working with somebody of that stature?
Well, the late 90s and early 2000s in the music business was wild because you had all these prima donnas, all these bands. They were prima donnas, and to meet someone like Bowie and be like, oh, this isn't about his ego. This isn't about him. We're collaborating, and he is treating me as his equal. He's not treating me as less than him. And I realized that all that projection and stuff is like incredibly insecure people, and incredibly insecure people have a hard time being expressive. So he was just down to earth and his excitement for music. Bowie was just always excited. Like when we were talking about the song that we're working on, he would be coming up with, oh, in the video we could do this, and oh, the art could be this, or what are you going to do for the stage show? And it became clear, and this picture formed of him. And I also later I'd gone to the museum to see like an exhibit on Bowie's life, and it confirmed that all these characters, Ziggy Stardust and all of it, oh my God, were planned and they were thought out from like a childlike
Wonder.
Yeah, it wasn't this like, we're gonna make money and this is gonna be a big seller. It had this bigger thing that if it was gonna have an impact, that it would change the world, or it would change the way society looked at transgender or heterosexual people. And I feel like David Bowie has a lot of he's responsible for breaking down a lot of those walls. And the whole glam rock scene was, and I thought it was also very poignant that he was one of the first people who really took us to space in lyrics. Before that, you had like 50s songs that were silly about like a purple people eater or whatever, but he actually took you to space and made you feel like this loneliness, heartbreak of someone floating in space. And then when he passed away, he made a record that was like ushering us into understanding death in some way, or understanding our life, which is kind of the same thing.
Did that respect that he honored you and your band, was that a breakthrough moment where like I've arrived moment in a way of being able to work with somebody of that stature and gain somebody like his respect?
Yeah, I mean, every musician that I know, even some on big levels, even people who have written songs with Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar, there are days when they wake up and they're like, should I just go like work in the warehouse at Walmart so I can, have some sort of like to quell the chaos a little bit of the music industry, quell the I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from. And everyone has that thought. But what Bowie did to me was like, I wake up in the morning now, this morning, and I say to myself, I am a musician. I was put on this earth to make music. And I can confidently say that because Bowie didn't work with anybody. He turned down Coldplay the same year that we worked with him.
Wow.
He turned down so many artists that were trying to work with him, and the handful that he did work with, we're among those ranks. John Lennon, Queen, so it was really, it made me realize that it's really just your frame of mind and your perspective as to who you are. If you're this otherworldly thing that you've imagined in your head, or if you're just insignificant and you're not good enough or whatever. So that leap there, where your imagination can kind of be what keeps you going.
Can you break down the story that you mentioned to me about. Remind me, what
Not
was it?
while doing this.
What was his last project? Was it Black Star?
Yeah.
And can you, okay, so you had told me, remind me of the details because they're a little fuzzy, but somebody that was important to David Bowie had communicated to you that in the making of that project and, you know, in his, whether it's his journals or final words, it said something to the effect of that Dave Gutter was one of his last hopes, I guess, of being an American songwriter or music or songwriting in general. Can you kind of explain that story?
Yeah, his childhood friend who had come to the studio, Paul Verna, who worked at Billboard magazine. It was a really weird situation because this band, Tony Visconti had a band that was out on the road playing Bowie songs, and they played at Aura in town, and he put me on the guest list. I went by and I talked to him and met a bunch of like other players that had played with Bowie over the years, and that was really cool. And I said to Tony Visconti and Paul Verna was there as well. I said, I would really like to connect with Bowie again. My writing's gotten better. I would love to reconnect with him on doing another collaboration. And they both had this look that was like, at first I thought it was like, yeah, that's never going to happen. Like, you really messed it up last time or something. And I had that, like, why did they give me that look? And I actually got word from Paul 10 hours before the world knew that David Bowie was dead.
Wow.
That David Bowie died.
So he was like on his deathbed basically when you had that conversation?
Yeah, well, the album Black Star was very premeditated. He knew that he was dying, and he wanted to make a record about it. And those close to him, Visconti obviously knew because he produced the record. But he told me, Paul Verna took me to lunch the next day, the day that I found out Bowie died. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm being taken to lunch by Bowie's childhood friend who has been with him the whole way because he was in the music industry at Billboard. And he was like, just so you know that, like, the way Bowie talked of you when he was working with you was that you were one of the great hopes. You were one of like the things that he looked forward to, that he thought the music industry might be okay. And I was like, well, I haven't really done him justice successfully wise, but I can keep doing this.
What is that like? How does that make you feel to have somebody that you've probably looked up to in your career to also have the shoe on the other foot, and he's looking up to you and respecting your craft?
Well, for me, it's really about my aunt, you know, like the aunt Irene or whoever. We all have this aunt. Or
we all have an Aunt Irene.
Yeah, you know, Thanksgiving's coming up, holidays are coming up, and all us musicians are going to have to face our aunt at some point, and they're going to be like, oh, how's it going? You know? How's the music business? How's your little
thing going?
Yeah, exactly. So what David Bowie gave me is like, oh, every Thanksgiving, you, Aunt Irene, you, whoever, because, you know, it's really a tough industry, and
yeah,
but it's an industry that everyone would kill to be in, and that's why, like, oh my God. I found a tougher industry.
Pottery?
Yeah, the pottery industry. I thought the music industry was tough. The pottery industry is way harder.
Perhaps this is the piece.
Oh, maybe we just cook that?
Maybe we just cook this. Set it off to the side and we might do something with it.
I want to put all these together.
Any final,
like
any final, I guess, things to touch upon with regards to David Bowie and his impact on you as a songwriter? Or maybe one takeaway in a couple sentences of like something that you learned from him that you still apply to your craft to this day.
I guess it was just to be cool.
But without trying to be cool.
Not be cool like from the in out, but just being cool to other people.
I see. So not having the appearance of being cool by wearing a leather jacket, but being cool in terms of personality and respecting your peers.
You have to understand, this was the all-time high of rock stars being rock stars. Mm-hmm. This is the all-time high of like them, you know, dissing their fans straight up and just being like, I am I am, as a human, I'm up here and you're down here.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like wild, like that people would think that because you know, you have one hit in the 90s or something, but a lot of bands were like that. And a lot of bands were like super crappy. And, you know, he wasn't. He was in love with his wife and he loved music and he loved the saxophone. And he loved jokes. And he would send me like early internet viral videos. You know, the video, it looks a little bit like this. It was like there was a zookeeper cleaning an elephant's cage. And then
Dry that off before you throw that on there, by the way.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so the elephant sits down on the man cleaning the cage, and now the man is inside the elephant's. David Bowie sent me that video, and he would send me these photos randomly, which is funny. I bring up the aunt thing because he would send me like a picture of like a hideously scary woman with like no teeth, like completely naked, and just, you know, not to body shame anyone, but these were ugly women he was sending me. And he'd be like, my Aunt Meg says hi. And I'd be like, what is the meaning of this?